When you think of badly behaving bands, you might think of The Who, Led Zeppelin, Oasis, all of whom had a bit of a reputation for being a nightmare on tour. None of them, however, were banned from an entire country. The Kinks were. This is the story of how the Kinks got banned from the USA, and how it actually led to one of their greatest songs of all time. Hi, I'm Adam, welcome back to Music Mongoose. To understand how this banishment occurred, we've got to go back to the 60s and the British invasion. Don't worry, this wasn't colonialism 2.0. This was a musical movement which saw British bands becoming exceedingly popular in the States. The Beatles, the Stones, the Zombies, Small Faces, Yardbirds, the list goes on. Americans were loving British music more than they loved pancakes. And Americans love pancakes! The Kinks, to an extent, fit on this list, but they could have been much more prominent than they actually were. The band formed in 1963 by Ray Davies and Dave Davies. They had the same second name, which was a total coincidence. Crazy. They're widely thought to be one of the most influential bands of the 60s, right up there with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. In 1964, the band released their breakthrough hit, You Really Got Me. This tune became an international powerhouse and put them on the map, both in the UK and in the States. In fact, it reached number 7 in the States later that year. Ray wrote the tune in early 1964 about a girl he'd seen in a club. It was first recorded as a more bluesy number before evolving into the pacier style we hear today. Fun fact, Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin performs the guitar solo on the song. This became the band's first UK number 1, and it was so popular that, according to Ray, the record label had to cease production on all other records to focus purely on this single. The song would also later appear on their self-titled debut album. And by the way, if you need a reminder of what the song sounds like, you can find a link in the description to try Amazon Music 30 days completely free. There's also a bunch of other goodies down there too. Go on, have a look down there. There's a good boy. Off you go. So they had made it. The Kinks were riding high on the success of You Really Got Me and were ready to join the charge of the British invasion. A tour was scheduled in 1965 and the band were set to make their mark across the Atlantic. The tour was probably always doomed, if their warm-up show in Wales was anything to go by. Their show at Cardiff Capitol Theatre ended in disaster after only 2 songs. Tensions had been brewing between Dave and drummer Mick Avory due to an altercation the night before. It all erupted in Cardiff when Mick lamped Dave, leaving him face down, unconscious and bleeding on stage. Thinking he had just committed murder, Avory fled the scene, later found by police and held in custody. Dave dropped all charges in the interest of the band's future, and eventually they smoothed things over. But this would serve as a foreshadowing for how the tour in the USA would go. Firstly, ticket sales were poor. Much poorer than anticipated, which meant their American promoter, Betty Kay, was unable to pay them in cash up front. This displeased the band, to put it lightly. As revenge, the band decided to play a much shorter set in Reno, playing a ridiculously extended version of You Really Got Me for most of the show. Very professional, lads, very professional. Then they threatened to cancel their next show in San Francisco if they weren't paid up front. And that was the last straw for the promoter. Betty put in motion something that would see the band banned from the USA for good. She sent a formal letter of complaint to the American Federation of Musicians. This lot was serious stuff. They had the power and authority to withhold work permits for British musicians if they had good enough reason to. And it's safe to say they did. Misbehaving, refusing to play, enough to put a stop to their antics. The final nail in the coffin was probably backstage before their appearance on the Dick Cavett show. Ray got into a fight with one of the TV crew members after reportedly accusing them of being late. The details of that particular incident are all in Ray's autobiography, which I've linked downstairs for you. As a result of their anarchy, the Kinks received a 4-year ban from touring the States, all sanctioned by the American Federation of Musicians. I told you they were serious stuff. This put an end to their involvement in the British invasion, and one can only imagine the untapped potential that was missed out on. A silver lining of all of this, though, is that it did lead them to record, in my opinion, their best song ever. With America turning their backs on them, the Kinks deepened their roots back home. Ray took inspiration from their hometown and wrote Waterloo Sunset, a romantic ode to the city of London, a tribute to a place that meant so much to him. Waterloo is the place his life was saved at St Thomas Hospital as a young child, the place him and his first wife would walk along the Thames dreaming about the future, and the place he associates with incredible memories of the Festival of Britain. Would that song have ever been created had the band been focusing on dominating America? Let me know what you think in the comments. Oh, and by the way, I know that Jimmy Page didn't actually play the solo in You Really Got Me. It looks like I got you! Hey! For the story of another disastrous tour, click the video on screen for the time Oasis put on their worst gig ever in LA. And do subscribe to keep up to date with my future videos, and I'll catch you next time on Music Mongoose.